Our first guest is the biggest movie star in the world and a really, really nice guy. His new movie, The Last Samurai, is in theaters now. Please welcome the one and only Tom Cruise.
You don't think Tom Cruise is a good actor?
I think he's irrelevant in my world.
This story starts with a question that's been whispered in Hollywood circles for years. Is Tom Cruise as perfect as his public image suggests? He's the golden boy of action films, the man who's been running literally through blockbuster after blockbuster with an unshakable smile and an air of invincibility. But behind the scenes, away from the blinding lights of the premieres and the carefully curated interviews, there are whispers, tensions, and even outright feuds. One of the most intriguing of these stories involves Brad Pitt, another Hollywood heavyweight, and their legendary but seldom discussed rivalry. Their clash wasn't just a war of personalities, it was a battle of philosophies on what it means to be a star, and it all began on the set of a film that could have united them, but instead drove them apart.
I was the first person that Tom Cruise asked or complained that his sister couldn't find him a girlfriend, which ultimately ended up in the search for a girlfriend for Tom Cruise that began with Nazanin Boniadi and then ultimately ended up with Katie Holmes, which was documented in a marvelous piece for Vanity Fair by Maureen Orth.
Let's rewind to 1994. Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, two of the biggest names in the business, were brought together for Interview with the Vampire. On paper, it was a dream pairing. Cruise was already a box office juggernaut, his career defined by roles that oozed charisma and confidence. Pitt, on the other hand, was the rising star, fresh off his breakthrough in Thelma and Louise and already proving he was more than just a pretty face. The anticipation for their collaboration was electric. Fans imagined the two actors might complement each other, bringing their respective strengths together for a gothic masterpiece. But what happened during the filming of Interview with the Vampire was far from harmonious. Instead, it exposed just how different these two men were, not just as actors, but as human beings. In interviews years later, Brad Pitt didn't mince words about his experience working on the film. He described the 6 months of shooting as nothing short of miserable, and while much of that misery was attributed to the physical setting, filming in London during the dark winter months, there was an undeniable tension between Pitt and Cruise that colored the entire experience. Pitt openly admitted that Cruise bugged him, elaborating that their personalities were like North Pole and South Pole. It wasn't just a matter of clashing temperaments, either. It was a philosophical divide in how they approached their craft and their careers. Cruise was the consummate professional, driven by an almost obsessive need for perfection, while Pitt was, by his own admission, more laid back, someone who preferred to let the work flow naturally rather than micromanage every detail.
That's partly for the movie and partly because you just really are a nice guy, and you deserve it just because there are so few people that are that genuine and that nice. You really are.
One of the biggest sticking points for Pitt was what he perceived as an underlying competition between the two of them. He once said that this sense of rivalry got in the way of any real conversation between them. And it wasn't just Pitt who noticed this competitive energy. Crew members from the set have since hinted that Cruise's larger-than-life presence made it difficult for anyone else, including Pitt, to shine. Cruise thrived on being the center of attention, always ready with a handshake and a megawatt smile, while Pitt preferred to hang back, observing, rather than performing for the cameras when they weren't rolling. This difference in energy created an invisible but palpable divide on set, one that neither actor seemed willing or perhaps able to bridge. But the tension wasn't just about personalities, it was also about the roles they played. Cruise took on the part of Lestat, the flamboyant, devious vampire who was the driving force of the film, while Pitt portrayed Louis, a brooding and conflicted character who spends much of the story questioning his own existence. While both roles were central to the film, it was clear that Lestat was the flashier, more dynamic character. Pitt later admitted that he felt frustrated with his role, which required him to react to Cruise's dominating presence rather than carve out his own space. In the book, Louis is this guy who's asking, "Who am I? Am I good? Am I bad?" Pitt said in an interview. But in the movie, it felt like all I was doing was sitting around and watching Lestat. That disparity between their roles only served to heighten the sense of competition and resentment on set.
Richard gave me some really good advice about, he said, "Mickey, man," he said, "listen, you can't beat them. There's too many of them, and they got too much money, and they've got," he says, "you just got to pull back." And I got off the phone with Richard, and I thought, nah, I'm going to do it my way. And, you know, and I made a big mistake because
The rivalry didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Though neither actor has ever publicly launched a direct attack on the other, there's been an unmistakable frostiness in how they've spoken or avoided speaking about each other over the years. For example, in 2009, the two found themselves competing at the box office with their respective World War II dramas, Pitt's *Inglourious Basterds* and Cruise's *Valkyrie*. When Pitt's film emerged as the clear winner, reports circulated that he had referred to Valkyrie as ridiculous, though his representatives later denied the quote. Whether or not Pitt actually said those words, the fact that such rumors gained traction speaks to the enduring narrative of their rivalry. What's fascinating about Pitt and Cruise is how differently their careers have evolved since Interview with the Vampire. Cruise has doubled down on his action hero persona, becoming synonymous with high-octane blockbusters like the Mission Impossible series and Top Gun: Maverick. His image is that of a man who defies limits, both physically and professionally, constantly pushing the boundaries of what a leading man can do. Pitt, meanwhile, has taken a very different path. While he certainly had his share of commercial hits, like World War Z, he's also gravitated toward more eclectic, character-driven projects, from Fight Club to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Pitt has described himself as a character actor trapped in a leading man's body, and his filmography reflects that duality. He's not afraid to take risks, to play against type, or to embrace roles that are messy, flawed, and deeply human.
Because I think it's really hard to reach the level, where you are and still kind of be humble, and you are. You're a genuine guy that pays attention and listens and talks to people, and you're not self-absorbed, and that's.
Thank you.
So I like that you're still.
No, I care about people. I want to see people happy and see them do well.
This divergence in their careers speaks volumes about the core differences between them. Cruise has built his brand on being larger than life, the kind of actor who always saves the day and looks good doing it. Pitt, on the other hand, has leaned into vulnerability, exploring the complexities of human nature in a way that feels more grounded. It's no wonder, then, that the two have never worked together again. They simply don't inhabit the same cinematic universe. Cruise is all about control, whether it's performing his own stunts or managing his public image with military precision. Pitt, by contrast, seems more interested in surrendering control, in finding the beauty in chaos and imperfection. Of course, it's worth noting that Hollywood is full of rivalries, most of which are kept behind closed doors, but what makes the Pitt-Cruise dynamic so intriguing is the fact that their tension seems to stem from something deeper than mere ego. It's a clash of ideologies, a fundamental difference in how they see the world and their place in it. Cruise represents the old-school Hollywood ideal of the untouchable movie star, while Pitt embodies a more modern, introspective approach to fame and art. And yet, for all their differences, both men have achieved extraordinary success, albeit on their own terms. They are, in many ways, two sides of the same coin, proof that there's no single path to becoming a legend.
Really, brother. I don't care about money and power. I care about when I watch Al Pacino work and Chris Walken and De Niro's early work and Richard Harris's work and Ray Winstone's work. That's the kind of actor I want to be, like Monty Clift and, Brando back in the day. And
as for whether they'll ever work together again, the chances seem slim. Their careers have taken them in such different directions that it's hard to imagine a project that could unite them. But perhaps that's for the best. Their rivalry, though unspoken, has only added to the mystique surrounding both actors, turning them into icons in their own right. And in Hollywood, where image is everything, sometimes a little tension can be just as powerful as a handshake. Let's dive deeper into the tangled web of Tom Cruise's relationships with his Hollywood peers. If the tension with Brad Pitt revealed a simmering rivalry rooted in conflicting work styles and philosophies, what happened with Mickey Rourke was nothing short of a verbal sparring match, though it played out entirely in the public eye. If you thought Pitt's measured observations about Cruise's persona were harsh, Mickey Rourke took things to a whole new level by essentially pulling Cruise's Hollywood Golden Boy card and shredding it for everyone to see.
These are the times now, people, okay? These are the times we will all remember. Were you there? What did you do? I think you know that I am there for you. And I do care so very, very, very much.
Picture this. It's 2022, and Top Gun: Maverick is soaring to unprecedented heights. Critics are raving, audiences are cheering, and the box office is practically melting under the weight of its success. Tom Cruise is being hailed as the savior of cinema, the man who brought people back to theaters after years of uncertainty. But while Cruise was busy basking in the glow of his blockbuster triumph, Mickey Rourke decided to pour a bucket of ice water all over the celebration. During an interview, Rourke was asked his thoughts on Cruise's latest achievement, and instead of joining the chorus of praise, he went straight for the jugular. "That doesn't mean anything to me," Rourke said dismissively, before adding, "The guy's been doing the same part for 35 years. I've got no respect for that." Now, let's unpack this, because wow, that's a lot to process. On one hand, Rourke's criticism wasn't entirely out of left field. Cruise has undeniably carved out a niche for himself as the ultimate action star, and his most iconic roles, Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible series, Maverick in Top Gun, even Jack Reacher, do share a common thread. They all lean heavily on Cruise's signature intensity, physicality, and charm. But to say he's been doing the same part for decades, that's a bold statement and one that feels deliberately provocative. It's almost as if Rourke wanted to stir up a little controversy, and boy, did he succeed. But here's the thing about Mickey Rourke, he's not exactly known for holding back. This is a man who has built his own reputation on being unapologetically himself, for better or worse. He's the kind of actor who values raw authenticity and emotional depth above all else. And he has a deep respect for performers who push the boundaries of their craft. In the same interview where he criticized Cruise, Rourke rattled off a list of actors he admires, names like Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, and Marlon Brando, calling them real actors who constantly stretch themselves artistically. By contrast, Rourke seemed to view Cruise as someone who played it safe, sticking to a formula that guaranteed commercial success, but lacked the transformative power of truly great acting. To understand why Rourke feels this way, it's important to consider his own journey. Mickey Rourke came up in the 1980s as one of Hollywood's most promising talents, earning critical acclaim for his intense, brooding performances in films like Rumblefish, but his career took a sharp detour when he left acting to pursue a career in professional boxing, a decision that left him physically and emotionally scarred. When Rourke returned to acting, he was no longer the matinee idol he once was, but a grizzled, weathered figure with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. His 2008 performance in The Wrestler was a revelation, earning him an Academy Award nomination and cementing his status as a comeback king. For Rourke, acting isn't just a job, it's a form of self-expression, a way to channel his pain and passion into something meaningful. In his eyes, Cruise's polished, larger-than-life characters must seem superficial by comparison.
Think it just for sensationalistic purposes. I like John Travolta. I feel sorry that he is sort of enmeshed in this web that he doesn't seem to be able to find his way out of, but he is a nice man. Not the same with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a phony nice man.
But Rourke's comments also reveal something deeper about the way he views Hollywood as a whole. He's never been one to play the game, and his disdain for the industry's obsession with blockbusters and franchises is well documented. To him, Cruise represents the pinnacle of that system, a star who thrives within its confines rather than challenging its norms. It's not just that Rourke doesn't respect Cruise, it's that he doesn't respect what Cruise stands for. And while some might argue that this is more about Rourke's own frustrations than it is about Cruise, there's no denying that his words struck a nerve. Of course, Cruise didn't respond publicly to Rourke's remarks. He rarely engages in public feuds, preferring to let his work speak for itself, and to be fair, he doesn't need to. Top Gun Maverick went on to gross over $1 billion, cementing his status as one of the most bankable stars in history. But the fact that Rourke felt compelled to make such a pointed critique speaks to the complicated legacy Cruise has built over the course of his career. He's a man who has achieved unparalleled success, but at what cost? To some, he's a hero who has redefined what it means to be a movie star. To others, he's a symbol of everything that's wrong with modern Hollywood.
So what do you say? We need to clean this place up? Huh? Okay. Because we're counting on you. Okay? All right? To LRH.
And speaking of complicated legacies, that brings us to John Travolta, a man who, like Cruise, has been both celebrated and scrutinized for his connection to Scientology. But unlike Cruise, whose relationship with the church has only seemed to bolster his career, Travolta's association with Scientology has been a source of tension, and some say jealousy. For years, rumors have swirled about a rivalry between the two actors, fueled by their shared faith and the preferential treatment Cruise reportedly receives within the church. According to former Scientology insiders, Travolta was once the golden boy of the organization, but that all changed when Cruise joined in the late 1980s. Suddenly, Travolta found himself playing second fiddle to a younger, more charismatic star, and the shift didn't sit well with him. One former Scientology member even claimed that Travolta was furious when Cruise was awarded the church's prestigious Freedom Medal of Valor in 2008, an honor that had never been bestowed upon Travolta despite his decades of dedication. It's no secret that Cruise and Travolta despised each other, the source said. Travolta wasn't invited to Cruise's wedding with Katie Holmes, and that told me everything I needed to know. Whether or not this animosity is real, it's clear that the dynamic between Cruise and Travolta is anything but simple. They're two of the most high-profile members of a secretive and controversial organization, and their relationship seems to mirror the power struggles that often play out within Scientology itself.
How about those famous people? And Tom Cruise. I spent a day with Tom Cruise about Scientology. I went to the anti-psychiatry center.
And what did you think of that?
I thought he was totally into it.
Yeah, but what did you think of the whole...
I didn't agree with that. I like psychiatry. I think it helps a lot of people.
Right.
But Tom Cruise believes it.
Yes.
I don't think he's out to fool you.
But the tension between Cruise and Travolta isn't just about Scientology, it's also about what they represent as actors. Travolta, like Rourke, has always prided himself on his versatility, taking on a wide range of roles that showcase his ability to transform. From the smooth-talking Danny Zuko in Grease to the hitman with a philosophical streak in Pulp Fiction, Travolta has proven time and again that he's more than just a leading man. Cruise, by contrast, has built his career on consistency. He's the guy you can count on to deliver a thrilling action sequence, a charming smile, and a triumphant ending. And while that formula has made him one of the most successful actors of all time, it's also made him a target for criticism from peers who value artistic risk over commercial reward. The rivalry between Cruise and Travolta raises an interesting question. Can two stars who share so much fame, faith, and a love of the spotlight ever truly coexist? Or are they destined to be locked in a perpetual battle for dominance, both within Scientology and in the wider world of Hollywood? It's a dynamic that continues to fascinate, not least because it offers a glimpse into the complex interplay of ego, ambition, and loyalty that defines life in the entertainment industry.
You know what? It helped me. You know, he just gave people a reason to support me more. So in a way, I felt kind of more sorry for that because it backfired, you know, and he apologized. And again, you know, I'm like, hey, you made a mistake, but I was able to.
And just when you think the story couldn't get any more tangled, along comes Brooke Shields, an actress who found herself in a very public feud with Cruise over her decision to speak out about her struggles with postpartum depression. This clash wasn't just about two celebrities with differing opinions. It was a flashpoint in a larger cultural conversation about mental health, medication, and the role of Hollywood stars in shaping public discourse. But more on that in a moment, because if there's one thing we've learned about Tom Cruise, it's that his relationships with his peers are as layered and complex as the man himself. Stay tuned, because we're just getting started.
Tom is very well aware of what is Scientology, truthfully. He is very aware that it's an organization that is defrauding people out of their lives. But in his heart, I believe he believes it. So I don't believe that he's...
That's what I mean.
Yeah, he's totally...
So what do you think? Is Tom Cruise's public image too good to be true? Or is he genuinely the perfect Hollywood star? And how do you think his rivalries with Brad Pitt, Mickey Rourke, and John Travolta have shaped his career? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more celebrity gossip and Hollywood drama. Until next time,